It's that time of the year again. It's the time of the year where we're slowly getting to the end of the year and people are starting to think about, sort of what the next year looks like, 2026. And this is typically the time when people start to sort of decide, what these are some of the things that I want to do. And we call those New Year's resolutions, right? But before you set New Year's resolutions, or goals or whatever they might be, I want you to hear this first. In the previous year, you might have set goals and set New Year's resolutions that, frankly, we're in December right now and you feel like you did not achieve, you feel like you did not hit them, whatever targets you set. And that's fair enough. And the honest truth is that it's also part of the human experience, right? But the thing that I wanted to sort of talk about is the idea that a lot of people think they might have not met these expectations or these targets because of a lack of effort. For some people, that's true. For some other people, it could have been as a result of just life happening and, they had to change strategies or pivot to do something else entirely. That's also true. But for most people, it's this one common thing, and it's the fact that they were not able to find a way to remain consistent. But this conversation, I want to frame it by saying this. Consistency is easy when things are going the way you expect them to go. It's very easy to remain consistent when you can see the direct impact, the direct results that you've been hoping and praying for. But consistency becomes a lot more difficult when your results are slow. Consistency becomes a lot more challenging when the validation that you're looking for by way of your results never comes. Week in, week out, you start to wonder, do I keep going or do I stop? And frankly, a lot of people in that space stop. So before you set your New Year's resolutions, I want you to ask yourself, do I have what it takes to consistently see this through, regardless of when the results come? Because that's a fair question to ask. Because honestly, if your answer is no, you probably have no business doing whatever it is that you're trying to do or hoping to do. But if your answer is yes, I want you to even take it a step further. What are some of the ways that you're going to find? What are some of the ways that you're going to remain consistent? What are some of the ways that you're going to ensure that your consistency doesn't fade out through the year? Right? So, you know, recently I did a little bit of an exercise on my Instagram. I asked people who are builders and when I mean builders, not in terms of construction, I'm talking about people who are actively working on something, actively building something. So maybe it's in the creative space, or maybe it's a business, or they're entrepreneurs, whatever it is. And I asked them, it was a poll. I said, what is the biggest struggle that you have? Is it not knowing what to do next, or is it um, finding a way to remain consistent when results are slow? I was shocked because I had initially assumed that the biggest struggle most people would have is not knowing what to do, right? Because it's kind of logical that, hey, yeah, like I don't know what to do, and you kind of feel like that's where most people are. But surprisingly, where most people really are is the fact that staying consistent when results are slow is the major challenge. And if you've seen a little bit in life, if you've walked a little bit through life, you realize that results can take time. And in between you starting something and in between that place and that excitement of you starting something, eventually that sort of like fades out. But in between that place and the place where you start to see good results, the actual results you desire, is a span of time. And some people refer to that as the messy middle, right? It's the messy middle, in the sense that it's the time where you're trying to figure out, like, should I even be doing what I'm doing? Should I still be trying to push this business? Should I still send these newsletters? Should I still be trying to take that course? Should I still be applying to those jobs? Should I still be trying to get out of my industry, into something else. That's the messy middle, where it's like you're applying effort and you're putting in the time and the work towards the goal that you have, but you're not yet seeing the results. And the temptation in that season is to want to give up, is to want to throw in the towel. And frankly, a lot of people, that's where they actually fail. That's where they throw in the towel, right? So before you set that New Year's resolution, I want you to picture being straight up with you. Picture yourself having gone a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and you not yet seen the desired results. Do you really have what it takes to keep going, or will you stop? It's a fair question to ask. And I can ask this because this is currently where I am. So I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be transparent with you. For the last 40 weeks, I have recorded and published a podcast episode. For the last 56 weeks, I have published a newsletter. And don't get me wrong, I've gotten great feedback. I've gotten great, responses from people that I know and from strangers that I don't know. And it's been amazing, and I love it. But at the same time, the goals that I had set in terms of metrics, and when I mean goals, I'm talking about metrics now. In terms of, we want to be at this number of subscribers, or we want to be at this number of followers, or want to be at this level, whatever it is, whatever those metrics look like, we didn't hit. So I had to have an honest conversation with myself where it's like, are you going to stop what you're doing because you didn't hit those goals? And I'll be honest with you, I'm human just like you. So the temptation, of course, came in where it's like, why am I even wasting my time? I don't need to be doing this. Right? Like, I could be doing something else. But it goes back to this idea of, in that space, in that season that I call the messy middle, that a lot of people call the messy middle, you will feel the temptation to quit. And your consistency will be tried in that season. And one of the main things that I've personally realized helps to stay consistent when results are slow is to have a vision, to have a drive, to have passion, to have a bigger picture that's much, much more stronger. That's much, much more stronger than your desire for approval. A lot of people don't talk about this, but innately, every human being desires approval to a certain extent. And yes, they say it's not a good thing, but you can't also remove and extract the desire for approval entirely from a human being. The person ceases to be human. They become a robot. Everybody in their heart of hearts craves a level of appreciation, a level of validation. There's a reason why children will look to their parents for validation. I mean, think about it, right? You go to an exam and they give you results and then you get a certificate based off of that. That is validation, or whether or not you like it. It is some sort of validation as to the fact that you have the skills that were tested and tried through that examination, right? So let's stop acting like people don't need validation, or, oh yeah, I don't need approval. You need some approval. Let's just call it what it is. But the level of approval is the issue. If you are now at a stage where you need people to sort of approve every little thing you do, you need people to sort of acknowledge every little step you take and appreciate every little thing you do and celebrate every little thing you do, that's when there's an issue. But that's not the focus of this episode. What I'm talking about is having a bigger picture, a vision, a mission, something that's driving you, that's much more intense and much bigger and stronger than your desire for approval. Because I won't lie to you, in the days when you feel like quitting, that's what's going to keep you going. Another way to say this is, oh, it's your why. It's why you're doing what you're doing, right? I just don't want to say it that way, but that's another way to say it, is the why. Why are you doing what you're doing? If that reason is not bigger than your desire for approval and your desire for validation and your desire for for feelings that come from achieving a certain metric or goal or whatever it is, you will not see that process through. You will not complete that process through. And in this case, you end up in December of next year looking back and being like, the resolution that I had in January, I quit again. So I say all this to say consistency is easy when results are going the way you expect them to. But consistency becomes extremely difficult if you don't have the right mindset, if you don't have the right reason why you're doing what you're doing, if you don't have the right systems, if you don't have the right community, if you don't have the right people around you, if your mind is not filled with the right words, honestly, consistency becomes a lot more difficult. And that being said, I decided to do something about this. So hear me out. As I go through my messy middle, is how I would call it, right? As I go through a season where I'm also ensuring that I'm staying consistent, regardless of the results, regardless of whatever it is that's going on, I decided, you know what? I'm going to also encourage other people who are going through their own versions of a messy middle. So that being said, I'm pivoting the newsletter, the Men Rose newsletter that we've had for 56 weeks now. We're pivoting that into a newsletter that helps creatives and entrepreneurs, people who are actively working on something, or just even if you're a career person, people who are actively building something, trying to achieve something that helps them to stay consistent when results are slow. I'm not trying to be the guy who is talking to you from the mountaintop, telling you I've conquered the mountain. This is how you do it. No, no, no. I'm going to walk you through what's working for me, and we're going to walk through this together, right? So if you're asking what's that going to look like, it's going to look like practical systems to stay consistent and just honest encouragement as well along the way. Because let's be honest, we all need to be encouraged, right? So the pivot is happening, and I'm really excited because everyone I've spoken to about this has absolutely lit up and said, yes, Oba, I need this. Right? So as we go through this experience together, let's encourage ourselves. Let's find a way to remain consistent as we get through the messy middle. Because that's another thing. It won't last. It won't last forever. Recently I was listening to a podcast rather, and the guy was talking about how he grew his business. I think his business it was a newsletter business, about how he grew his newsletter business to 800,000 subscribers. But the funny part is, it took him 5 years to do that. But the first 2 years, he only had about 300 or 400 subscribers. That's the messy middle right there. Nothing else is messy middle than that, right? So I say all that to say this. There's a wait list that we currently have going on. We currently have a bunch of people on there. I'm going to put a link to that wait list in the description of the podcast. And if this message connects with you, if you have, your goals and your plans in sight for 2026, and you want to make sure that on the consistency side of things, all the systems and all the motivation and all the encouragement that you need, you will have going into the new year, this newsletter is for you. This newsletter is not for you if you feel like you've conquered whatever it is that you're doing and you're so great at it and like your consistency is never tried, right? This is for people who are currently in the messy middle, who are currently building, and sometimes results are slower. Results are not what we expect, but who understand that their consistency must not stop, must not be attacked, must not drain, So that's what this is for. So there's gonna be a wait list in the there's gonna be a wait list in the description of the podcast, either on YouTube or wherever you're listening, Spotify, all that stuff. Right. And I look forward to getting you on the wait list and we get this going in the new year. Right. Now, that being said, this is episode 40 of the Many Roads podcast. And I wanted to take the time to say thank you for everyone who's watching, who's listening. Thank you for being a part of our journey. Thank you for being a part of our story. I am grateful to have you here. I'm grateful to have the privilege of speaking into your life in whatever way, shape, or form. I'm grateful for the privilege to play a little part in your story. I'm grateful for the privilege to, be a part of your life in this little capacity, right? And it's also going to be our last episode for the year because we want to take our time to improve on various aspects of the podcast and make sure that, when we come back in 2026, we come back bigger, we come back better, and, we remain consistent, right? So, um, episode 40, it's been an amazing journey so far. And I look forward to, of course, all that is going to happen in the year 2026. It's going to be an amazing year. So I wanted to say thank you first of all, and then I wanted to also say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I hope you enjoy your time with family, your time with friends, and we'll see you in the new year. Till next time, God bless.